Hi, I'm Laurie Dobson, and this is Island Update. Today's Tuesday, April 7th, 2020, and I'm on Great Cranberry Island in Maine. And I am taking a walk today and I'm going to be talking about my COVID experience with my getting it myself. And I have hesitated to talk about that until now because I haven't been convinced that that's what I had when I came down with something really severe on February 11th. The reason I didn't want to say that that's what it was. And by the way, here's the island. Here's the island. You take a walk to the end of the street and talk about this for a second. But I think it's helpful for people to know, based on things that have happened, and maybe it just another person's experience. So I visited my daughter in Seattle, and in January 26th, I came back after having spent a week out there. And she said that early in January, she'd gone through something really severe that she'd never experienced before. And she'd just gotten over it. She still wasn't quite herself. But she said it was the worst thing she ever had. She didn't know if it was a flu or not, but she experienced, dry cough, weakness, joint pain, and just severe sense of, joint aching and coughing and shortness of breath. So I came back on February 11th to, after I came back on the 26th, I had a sort of an 11-day period there where I was doing a lot of writing and working for a blog, and I went over to New Hampshire to Bernie Sanders events. There were 10 of them that I attended and looked in on, and some other campaigns too. I was just sort of covering pre-primary campaign events, and saw a lot of people. And then the final one was when he won the primary, and I was there at that in Manchester at that event, and there's a lot of people. So at all the events, I came back driving that night late, feeling incredibly exhausted, and I was going back to my mom's that night and then coming back to the island the next day. And I felt so bad, so incredibly depleted. I thought, okay, well, it's just because, I've done this sort of marathon event thing, but that didn't really account for the fatigue. I couldn't keep my eyes open. I actually got stopped by a policeman that night saying, "Come on, you're crossing the road. What's going on with you?" And he checked out to see if I had been drinking, which I hadn't. But I realized how over the top I was feeling, and I just didn't really get it. I really could not believe my fatigue and my sort of total depletion. The next day, I came down with, I felt bad. The next morning, I went to bed, and I didn't get up for a week. It just went completely fast. It went into my lungs. I had this incredible pain. Joint pain, and my face felt like, I was about to explode, just pressure on my joints. The coughing was so painful that I couldn't stand it. But I thought, okay, I just have the flu. But I had gotten a flu shot, and it didn't seem like it was the flu to me at the time. It was just, it was something that was frightening, actually, because of it seemed like my lungs were unable to just cough out the issue. I had to hold my hand across my diaphragm. It seemed like to keep it in one place because it felt like I was going to tear a hole in it. Anyway, finally, my mom I made sure to keep her away, and I had masks and gloves and the whole 9 yards. I kept her out of the room I was in. So I was just basically sucked in for a week. And finally, I went to the clinic in Kennebunk to ask them about this. And I said, I think I have this coronavirus thing. Although I didn't understand it at the time, but it just felt like it had to be something like that, because what else could it be? Something that severe. And they took a flu shot, they did the flu test up my nose, and they said it's not A or B, but it could be some other virus. There are lots of viruses out there. I said, wow, some other virus that's going around had to be a pretty severe one. And I thought maybe I caught it from the Sanders campaign events. But then So I tracked it back, and my daughter said, well, you must have had this. I'm convinced, she said, I'm convinced I had it. She's in Seattle, the epicenter of all the COVID stuff. And she said, Mom, it was 11 days that you came down. So that was within the 2-week quarantine after I had been exposed to her that I got it. So it turned out that my other daughter, my younger daughter, got something really, really bad and was similarly laid up. She's in her 20s, down in Kennebunkport. When I saw my mom, I did see my daughter briefly there during that time before I came down with this thing. So anyway, my mom didn't get it. That's the good news. My daughter did, but she's doing okay. And my other daughter's is all right, but she's in Seattle, and my son is, and they're dealing with this thing. But I just want to say, as far as me, I thought I was okay about a week and a half into it, and I was able to about 10 days into it, and I traveled back to here. Actually, it was 2 weeks. It was really 2 weeks at my mom's. It was crazy. It just didn't go away, and I was just so fatigued all the time, and really felt like it was getting the better of me. A friend had suggested some antivirals, which I took, that really helped. And the vitamin C regime, 2 capsules, and with some hot, heated up water with some squeezed orange, and just repeating that all the time, and zinc and some other things. Some good ideas in natural antivirals. Anyway, so I came back, and I was pretty weak, and then I thought I was on the mend, and then we drove down to Port Clyde, and I'm like, I couldn't understand why I was so tired. And then the next day I was like exhausted, and I thought, oh my God, this thing isn't done with me. And I was in bed for another week, and it seemed like a round 2. And then I read that there was a round 2. I was like, that's exactly what I had. It just kicked me, and it kept kicking and kicking. And so today is April 7th, and all of March I've had a cough that has just like a persistent thing that's just not, and it feels, and I never apparently got pneumonia, but I felt like this thing wasn't just not going away. And I've had fatigue and disorientation and, all of that. So there's my excuse for all these videos. If you don't think they're top of the line, never mind. Point is, it was an experience of that. And then now they're saying if you had those experiences, it didn't have to have had a temperature. But if you had, and I didn't have, I had a temperature, but it was never much. But I never had pneumonia, according to the clinic. But and my temperature was hard to get under control the first week. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't be warm. I couldn't be cold. I was just completely all over the map. I couldn't even, my walking, I was so disoriented. I could not walk. My walking I was so dizzy and off balance. And that, for me, that was a weird experience. So, anyway, so what I'm saying is that these symptoms that they're now saying automatically, they're assuming that, if you don't have either flu, then you're tested, and you have all these symptoms, and it has that kind of effect, that you can assume that you had the COVID. So I'm assuming I had it, and I believe it, because I came back and I tried to warn someone. I stayed overnight at a friend's house because I was at the time I was working. Anyway. That's another story. Anyway, I was working in Northeast, and I said, you guys, I think I had the coronavirus. And at the time, it was kind of like, it was still too early to think that any of that was due to this. But I'd been in Seattle, and I believe my daughter had it. I really do, based on her symptoms being exactly like mine. And the quarantine period, the incubation period was within the 2 weeks. So that's that, and I don't know what it does, but at least to know that it was raging. And then I heard other people had it too, a similar kind of mystery virus thing. I don't think it was a mystery so much. I think that's what we had. It was traveling around, and now there's all this stuff going around, and it's severe in some people. So And I'm hearing that there are all kinds of remedies out there, but I do think, if your body's telling you to stop, stop, rest. Don't let it keep you immobilized, moving around if you can manage it, but recognizing that it is going to be an ass kicker. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.